Hello, everyone. Marie Burns here. I'm a certified financial planner and financial advocate for women, and would like to visit with you today about one of the steps in my very first book called the Before Financial Checklist, where I talk about 15 different steps that we should really think about and take before we or someone we love ends up in the hospital or gone someday. And so today I'm looking at step 5, which is talking about the what ifs. So this is where you think about the questions that you might have asked yourself throughout your adult life, where we worry about things. What if my spouse or I die prematurely? Or what if one of us becomes disabled during our working years and we can't work again? Or what if, especially if we're closer to or in retirement, what if one of us needs long-term care in retirement? Very common worries. They're nagging thoughts. They're questions that go through everyone's mind at some point. So that's why I call them the what ifs in life. None of us, unfortunately, I think, or sometimes maybe fortunately, don't have that magic wand or crystal ball to see or forecast or fix future events. So the best thing that we can do is to stop and ask ourselves, okay, what if, whichever of those worries it is, really happens? How would we want that situation to go for us or our family? Let's look at the loss of life, for example. We know that death is inevitable, but the likelihood of it happening before we are near or in retirement is actually fairly small when we compare it with some of those other what ifs, the disability and the long-term care, for example. But if you or your spouse were to pass away at a younger than expected age, most people would prefer to have some life insurance in place to help ease that financial burden of the lost life, which also usually means lost income. So the concept of insurance is that you are deciding to protect yourself, your family, from the financial risk and transferring the cost of that risk to an insurance company. But everyone's situation is different. Life insurance, for example, is often used to pay off a mortgage or provide for replacement income for a period of time, and sometimes also to cover the cost of education or care or both for children. So what if you don't have a mortgage or children at home or the need for replacement income? Then perhaps life insurance is not needed in that situation. It very much depends on your circumstances. I know I've not always personally been a big fan of permanent cash value life insurance. I don't mostly see it being needed as often as it's sold, at least. However, I did see how it was beneficial for a couple recently when he needed a few years of that expensive long-term care they paid out of pocket. And after he had spent down almost the majority of their portfolio, his life insurance, permanent cash value life insurance, did replace what had been spent. So basically replenished the portfolio for the benefit of his wife after he passed away. What about disability risk? You know, that risk is actually more likely to occur than premature death. Or what about that potential need for long-term care? Statistically, that one is the most likely to affect more of us than either premature death or disability. So for each what if, we really need to visualize our own financial picture, think about our lifestyle, our family circumstances, and what our values are in order to ask ourselves if insurance is needed, and if so, how much we can or are willing to afford. And certainly there are other what ifs as well related to our vehicles, our home or apartment, our day-to-day health care, for example. Those insurances are important as well. No matter which example we're talking about, my point is that we may need another person to be involved with our finances in many of those what if insurance situations, whether there's insurance or not. So that brings me to my suggestion in this step in my book, is that you use an insurance summary, a written insurance summary to inventory your what ifs. You can find that insurance summary checklist in the description below. It's a checklist from the Financial Awareness Foundation that helps you summarize what insurance policies you have in place to help provide for those times when those what ifs will occur. You can use that list to kind of refresh your own memory about what do I have in place. And it's also a good idea to write none in the category that doesn't apply to you, which also helps prevent someone at some point when they're helping you for looking for something in your files that really doesn't even exist. And to save yourself some writing time, you might even want to write in C file for all of the details if you don't want to take the time to write them down. I'm also a fan of compiling an insurance folder. You could make a copy of just the declaration page for each policy. That's the page that is really a nice, concise summary of the policy details, no matter which type of policy we're talking about, and keep just that declaration page in an insurance folder, either as an alternative or in addition to compiling this insurance summary checklist. A getting financially organized checklist is really especially important as we get older, or as we're helping aging parents, or maybe you've already been through the process of helping someone else where good records were really hard to come by. Taking a little bit of focused time now can provide so much peace of mind, less stress later, and more clarity on what needs to happen. Think of this insurance inventory as just one more tool in your financial toolbox that also helps to answer those what if questions when they do occur.